impact performance throughout the entire year and going into next year. Okay, we are going to be here several weeks, several days in the off season, even as the season comes about and we start doing livery unveils again and everything else. But listen, for right now, we are on the new week of another Grand Prix, which is Abu Dhabi 2023. 2 years ago, still to this day, or maybe not this exact day, a situation happened, one of the biggest scandals in Formula One, which was the AD 2021 scandal involving Christian Horner, Jonathan Wheatley, Helmut Marko, and Massey, of course, the one that's NDA'd up. But right now, we're talking about some news that's been, fluttering about the week. So what I'm going to say is this, all right, fluttering about the week. I'm going to say that it is mighty interesting or a coincidence. And Louis Beer, big shout out to you, Mary Beanie, DG Big Blue, Galactus, and Peen. I'm going to say, and happy holidays to you all if I didn't get a chance to tell you that I was hella busy, a lot of things going on in the family. But nevertheless, Sylvia Wick Kelly, what's going on? So it is very interesting. And, if you don't mind, I'm just going to speak my mind on this because what we have right now is Red Bull, Christian Horner talking about just shenanigans. Maybe it's true to a degree. But he's been saying we have had several conversations over the years about Lewis joining. Now, I'm not saying that. Maybe that is true. Maybe Red Bull have had conversations about Lewis Hamilton joining that team. And I'm going to also agree with Max a bit here in a moment. Maybe they have. But as far as Christian saying or it being reported that he said, well, I actually saw him on a video say it. So, yeah, I can say it. That a representative reached out to them in regards to Lewis Hamilton and options of joining the team. Really? Is this what we're doing now? And it's mighty coincidental and not so much of a coincidence because you know what they say, anything that seems like a coincidence may indeed be a pattern of something that is real. That it happens as we enter Abu Dhabi 2023. And now we get all this fluff about this whole situation about Lewis Hamilton going over to Red Bull. Now, we already had previously, earlier in the year, the conversation about Mercedes at least looking like an RB19 car. And indeed, I want to say that probably was valid at the time. Mercedes needed to change the philosophy of that car. And since they have, it's been improved to a degree. I think we can all agree on that. Now, is it improved to the point where it is highly competitive? Well, I think the stats, the evidence, the data shows us that answer as well. Maybe in glimpse, maybe in certain tracks, maybe in certain conditions, but overall, the W14 is not competitive. Now, that right there, we can table and say, hey, that's valid. But this whole shenanigans about Lewis Hamilton wanting to join Red Bull, I'm not buying it. And you want to know why I'm not buying it? I'm going to tell you why, in my opinion, I'm not buying it. Is one, Red Bull has shown that they can't be trusted. Two, Christian Horner has shown that he can't be trusted. Three, Max has shown that he's an asshole and he likely cannot be trusted, which we can go into some things about Max Verstappen in this free practice session a later time. But we're going to talk about this right here, right now. Next thing I'm going to get into is this. Why would Lewis Hamilton want to join Red Bull Racing? I'm just going to be real and honest when I think about this. They have the most dominant car in this era. That's a question. Peen says F1 has some balls to keep posting the 80-21 ending. You know what, Peen? And I'm going to say this. To all the jackasses and all the haters that tell people on different social media platforms that why are you still crying or talking about 80-20-21? You do know Christian Horner was talking about 80-20-21, right? You do know the entire Sports One world in certain different capacities is talking about 80-20-21, right? So let me tell you this. Shut the F up. How about that? Shut the F up. Everybody's going to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it because you know it's a black eye. You know, Toto don't like that phrase. It's a black eye for the sport. It's a black eye for you because if you talk about it, you have to then come to the submission of Lewis Hamilton is not a real three-time champion. He's not. And you know what, just saying Max Hamilton, like if Lewis Verstappen or Max Hamilton, like if you really, I don't know what kind of driver that would be, but hopefully you would take the greatness of Lewis And then, well, shit, if you take, well, you don't need Max then. You don't need Max. Just saying, you wouldn't need Max. But that brings me to another point. Max was asked this question by Tom during the driver's press conference. And I have to say, I do agree with what Max said. I don't agree with maybe what his thought process was behind that, or maybe what his own personal thoughts, as I can see them turning in his little weasel eyes. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I do agree with what he said. What would it add? What would it change? What would it add? And he's right. Red Bull already have a driver that can take their car, their development, anything that they want to implement within adaptations or upgrades or updates. They have a driver that can take that package and win with it. So at this current time, in this day age, 2023, November 24th, Max is correct. What would it add at this point? They have a true number one driver at Red Bull. I'm not discussing Max's character. I'm talking about strictly skills paired with the team, tripled up with the car development. They have a driver in a seat that can take them to the top. It's a fact. That's not a question in my mind. Shouldn't be a question in your mind. We're not talking about if you like him, if you care about how he does it. They have a driver that can take the RB19 to the top and win. He's a champion in 2023. So I agree with Max in saying that. What would it add? I mean, you don't get any more than that unless it's just more stats along the way of becoming the champion. So I agree with Max. What would it add? Well, in that capacity, you're right, Max. In another capacity, it would add something that you cannot provide to any team. It would add something that you can't provide to any team. It would add something that you can't provide as far as a person. There is something to be said of what kind of champion are you? Max Verstappen this year is a 3-time champion by stats alone. And still, on certain posters and announcements and advertisements, they don't put Max first. We just saw recently they released that photo op of the Vegas GP, one of their most talked about and prized jewels, the Vegas GP. They had the photo op and Max was behind Lewis Hamilton. Do you want to know why that is? I'm going to tell you why it is. Because Max is not the face of Formula One. Not because they don't want him to be. Ping says, oh, Mary says, home talk to Lewis. Dad, not Lewis. Home, Horner. Oh, Horner talked to Lewis' dad, not Lewis. Okay, yeah. And that could be very true. See, that's something else that's being twisted all up, right? Horner talking to Lewis's dad, and we already know history-wise what has transpired between Anthony and Lewis before. Okay, if you don't know, just go look at. They had a rough patch there. Not that they fell out of being family or loving each other as far as father and son, but having different ideas about how Lewis wants to go forward with his career. Okay, and the conflict of representation. And Lewis Hamilton's dad doesn't speak for him. Okay, he doesn't speak for him. If that conversation was had between Horner and Lewis's dad, that conversation wasn't about official representation of let's sign a deal in a contract. In my opinion, I don't think that is the case. I don't think it is the case. But back to what I was saying about Max not being able to offer, he can't even offer Red Bull high-end marketing. He can't. His character doesn't allow him to. His personality cannot compete with it. His way of thinking is not that on a grand scheme that Lewis Hamilton has proved his to be. There is always something to be said about how you win and how you are perceived in the eyes of the public. Lewis Hamilton has transcended above just being a champion. He's been called a hero in some situations. because he's shown the ability of character and integrity to do that. So, Max, to answer your question, what would it add? It would add a bundle of things that you cannot provide. As far as champion and competing with that car, that machine, and that team, and taking them to the front, Max, you've done that. Not saying you could. You've done that. Lewis Hamilton can also do that. Felipe Massa was wrong, in my opinion, in saying that even if you put Alonso and Hamilton in that RB19, they still wouldn't beat Max. You look foolish saying that. You look crazy saying that because there are articles of evidence that would prove you wrong. If indeed Perez can beat Max in any portion of the season multiple times, there's no way that you're going to make me believe that Alonso, who I believe is a better driver than Perez, and damn sure Lewis Hamilton, that is a better driver than both of those, and Max Verstappen, and an RB19 couldn't beat Max. It's just not something to truly think about that, yeah, you know what, Master, you got a point. No, you don't have a point. You're just saying shit. You're just saying things. It's not true. And even though I can't say it's fact because it's a hypothetical, I can surely say there are more things that point to me being correct in my opinion than wrong in my opinion. And let's talk about now, what if, because we're all talking about hypothetical, Lewis Hamilton has already came out and said this is not true. It's not true. I've never had a conversation. Possibly he called an old phone. I checked it, whatever the case is. And let's just say maybe Lewis Hamilton may not be completely upfront about everything. Let's just say it. I don't mind putting that out there. There's always a chance for something. Never say never is what they say. And oftentimes that comes very true. Let's just talk about Lewis Hamilton doing so. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong if Lewis Hamilton's representation, because if I have a representative, their job is to find me the best opportunities that I can have throughout the course of my career. While I am in a performing state, your job as my representative, your job as my management, is to make sure I find myself in very lucrative positions and are very highly competitive positions that will yield for me competing highly in whatever sport I'm in. So if representation reached out, they're only doing their job. Max Verstappen wasn't winning championships until he got a dominant car. Is that a lie? Galacticus, Danny and Perez is more marketable than Max dry self. That's a fact. That's a fact. Daniel Ricciardo was brought into Red Bull for that one of those very reasons. He's a likable guy. He's marketable, and people will be very warming to him. Max can't provide that. But what's wrong with that? Somebody answer that for me. What is wrong with representation being sure that they put you in a situation? Like I said, Max Verstappen wasn't winning championships until he got an extremely dominant car, which some would say is the most dominant car in Formula One history right now. He was not winning championships. 2021, he didn't even win that. I mean, we know statistically it won it, but come on, we all know that that was a scam. But Max wasn't winning until he got a dominant car. So if representation look and say, you know what? Let's just think about this. Mercedes have screwed up for 2 seasons. They've wasted 2 seasons of our client's career, which is the best driver in Formula One history, which is regarded as the GOAT in Formula One, which is a multiple outstanding record statistic having driver in Formula One. We need to make sure that we try and exhaust any opportunity that would allow him to return to the top of this sport or remain at the top, because I still don't think Lewis Hamilton fell off the top of the sport. If you look at the way some people still refer to him, if you look at the way the world still views him as far as from a spectator to a sport view, he's still the GOAT. Max has not accomplished that. Max is still trying to he just overcame Alonso's championships. He still hasn't eclipsed Vettel for championships. They're talking about his records in regards to Vettel and getting those records. Not Lewis Hamilton. He's not there yet. He's not there yet. You want to talk about a bulk? You want me to drop that? And he's not there yet. So, yeah. Will, what's up, fam? Happy holidays to everyone. Happy holidays to you too, bro. So, yeah, it's not a problem. Or you can't blame representation for reaching out to right now what is the most dominant team on 3 phases of the sport. 2 phases for sure, but 3 phases, you got to add Max in there because he's driving the car. The car is the other phase: development, engineering, aerodynamics. The team is the other phase: pit stops, team principle, organization. They're dominating. So, yeah, representation should have reached out. Hamilton's not in this. He's getting ready to re-sign a contract. Perez is up 2024. Is there anything that you guys might want to do? Or maybe we can look at possibilities if this is something you were interested in. I can't blame representation for that. Do I think it really happened? No. But if it did, so the hell what? They're doing their job. They're doing their job. So let's talk about from the other side. Red Bull happened to be able to sign Lewis Hamilton. Let's just think about this. Let's think about this in several different ways before we get to this main point about Red Bull acquiring the services of Lewis Hamilton, Sir Lewis Hamilton, if you want to be completely correct. Do we not have it in question about this team and this organization's character and integrity? There are factual elements out there that I've shown you plenty of times that show Red Bull are not a team or an organization that are known for character or integrity. They've had several racial situations and or employees. You know, my fingers can just keep going up. Is that a good fit for Lewis Hamilton? No. We've seen them tell several lies and or insult people right there on DTS, which we don't know what that's going to look like when it comes out. We've already questioned the things that they may have done to Perez during his stint there, especially during a phase of this season where he was highly competitive for the driver's championship and then all of a sudden fell off a cliff. Is that a good place for Lewis Hamilton to be? And if Red Bull did acquire the services of Sir Lewis Hamilton at this point in time, do you know what I think they would do? I think that they would take every opportunity possible to ruin or to damage or to shade that man's career. I think that that's what they would do. Anything they can to damage or put holes in his legacy. If you are already concerned about what they may have or may have not done, which is in question to Sergio Checo Perez, what do you imagine they would try to do to Lewis Hamilton that damage him up? They're going to do everything they can. They're not going to support Lewis Hamilton in there. Think about all the things Lewis Hamilton stands for. You think they're going to support that? No. If Red Bull did that, it would only be to bring him in and then damage him inside of the team and then kick him to the curb in a very ugly way just to continue to dirty him up. I do not trust Red Bull in that facet. Outside of winning and developing a car, I don't trust Red Bull for shit. And they did that in a shady way. Let's just keep it real. They breached the cost cap. You could say it went into catering. You could say you want to talk about the mysterious so-called phantom tax credit. Well, let me explain to you. You still have to spend over a certain amount of money. The tax credit is only like a deductible. It's only like a deduction. It doesn't take away the fact that you overspend. You overspend. It just helps fix it on the books, on numbers and on paper to look like you didn't. But you still overspent. So for idiots that jump in the comments section, oh, you don't know anything about accounting. Listen, you overspent. They overspent. That's a fact. They got a tax credit. Okay, where is it at? I still haven't seen about it. It's on the books. Let's see it. But if they got it, fine, a tax credit. But it still doesn't change the fact they overspent. They still got that championship in 2022 in a very shady way. That's not a good place for Lewis Hamilton to be. It's shown that it's not a good place for certain drivers that even have characteristics that are very upholding than Red Bull. It's not a good place for Alex Albon. I'm not talking about his skills and his ability, but Alex has done well at Williams. He's done well at Williams. But as far as his character and his ability to be a good person, it's not a good fit there. Gasly the same way. I'm not saying he's the best person, but Gasly by far is not no damn Max Verstappen. Wasn't a good place for him. It's damn near not a good place for Checo Perez, honestly. So no, Lewis Hamilton would not fit there. They would only try to dirty him up, damage him up, and then kick it out. That's what Red Bull have shown me as far as what I've seen from them thus far. I can believe that they would do that before I believe that they wouldn't. This is just my opinion. I'm just sharing it. Just sharing my opinion as we right now in Abu Dhabi, which probably I would not be surprised if Abu Dhabi this season is the least watched GP. I would not be surprised for several reasons. People protesting in their own way that they're not going to watch. We'll just find out through different avenues and social media posts. Fans already kind of losing continuity and contact with the sport in regards to a domination by a certain team, which I don't agree with, but it's a thing and it is true that some fans, some people, some viewers just don't like to see a team that's dominant season after season. They like to see a change. Okay. I'm not one to complain about a team being dominant because I want to be as dominant as I can if I'm competing for as long as I can. So I'm not mad at that. But the other thing is that people that don't agree with how Red Bull became dominant in a very cheating, scandal-like fashion, they're losing. We already know that the viewership in America reportedly had dropped 650,000 people. So I would not be surprised in that. And all of that is because Red Bull is at the center of it. So no, that's why I can feel confident in my opinions to be more valid than others, because those things exist out here. They do. So yeah, skip that. Miss me with the bull crap. All right. Lewis Hamilton, the Red Bull, not a real thing. Could it ever happen? Anything can happen. Will I say never? No. Does money talk? It walks. But is it a good fit? Not at all. And I'm gonna tell you this. Max said that at the end of his comment in the press conference, he said he added a little bit on there to try to kind of save face, in my opinion. But even if he really felt it was genuine, okay. Said he wouldn't mind anyway. You know, there are a lot of great drivers. That was a lie. There are not a lot of great drivers. If you try to compare that to if you make a ratio of great drivers to drivers that have come through Formula One, it's a very small ratio. There are only 2 drivers right now and have been for a very long time with 7 world driving championships. 2. There are a handful of drivers that you could say have more than 4 world driving championships. There are not a lot of great drivers, Max. So while you tried to water down the impact of Lewis Hamilton to the team by going ahead and saying there are several drivers that are great, that's not true. Right now, there are only probably 3 drivers on the grid that can be regarded as great if you were just going to judge them based off ability and skill and talent on the grid. And that's going to be Lewis Hamilton first, Alonso next, and then you. That's 3 drivers out of 20. That's 3 drivers out of 20. That's not a lot, bro. So what other great drivers would you be referring to? That is what I want to know. 15% of you could be considered great. That's a failing grade in anybody's book. That ain't enough of a cut in anybody's book. That's not enough of a discount. When I walk into a store, if you talking about this is a Black Friday sale, if I see 15%, I'm like, bro, you only doing 5% above what the military discount is on a standard day. That ain't no Black Friday sale. That's not a big percent. I need to see 20, 30, 25, 30 to make me feel like this is a sale. That's not a lot. Mary Beanie says, I'm not watching any of AD because I was there 80, 20, 21. She indeed was. So Max was disingenuous in my opinion, by saying there are a lot of great drivers. There are not a lot of great drivers right now. Who you talking about? Lance Stroll? He ain't great. You want to talk about Logan Sargent? He not great. You want to talk about Joe? He not great. You want to talk about Valtteri? You might have a case to probably try to slide him in there, but no, not in my opinion. You want to talk about Charles Leclerc? He's not great. Carlos Sainz? He's not great. Alex Albon? He's not great. Who we talking about? I know you want to talk about Nico and K-Mag. They both not great. You want to talk about Checo Perez? He's not great. So where are we going? We talk about Ocon and Gasly? They both not great. What other great drivers is out there, Max? Why you talk about anybody? We've already seen at least two of those in this time of watching in a short span of years of Formula One. Couldn't even cut it at Red Bull as far as driving and at least being competitive. And we're not going to add in the point of Red Bull developing a car away from certain drivers to go to a certain driver. We're not going to add that in. We could debate that all day and talk about that. But I'm just trying to keep it fair and kind of keep it an even keel as far as my opinions and my thought process. No, there's not a lot of great drivers out there, Max. So stop that. That was kind of foolery. That was like a sleight of hand trick. He tried to be like, oh, well, even if he joined the team, I'd be cool with it. You wouldn't be cool with it. Because you complain a lot throughout the course of GPs if you even in the back of Lewis Hamilton. You tried to run into Lewis Hamilton when he went around you in the pits before, but yet you going to go around Mercedes today in the pits doing free practice, and it's okay if you do it. But you want to try to act like you going to ram Lewis Hamilton when he did it, yet you complaining about people pinching you in pit lane. See, this is another thing. That's going to be another topic we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that at another video. We're going to talk about that in another live. Max Verstappen and his contradictory crying that he does. We'll talk about that in another video. This video, we're just going to keep it strictly about Lewis, possibility going to Red Bull, and Max Verstappen and Christian Horner and Marco about how they would be accepting Lewis if he came to Red Bull. And I just think it's shenanigans. It's my opinion on it. I just think it's shenanigans. So we will see. The GP is coming up Sunday. We're in a typical standard type weekend. We're going to get some FP3 action. We're going to be here live for qualifying. I do have the $25 gift card I'm sending out to Insured Frames. It is quite possible that I'm just going to hold that instead of sending it out today because Insured Frames may indeed get another one coming up tomorrow. If you want to join us to get some cash, Visa gift cards, $50 or $25, join us tomorrow for Kickback Quality Trivia. It's going to be a good time. We always have a good time there. We changed the format up, just like other teams make updates trying to see if it'll work. We changed the format up. So from here on out, questions will go into the poll. So hopefully everybody gets them about an even amount of time. And as you enter those in, they should start populating within that order of the chat. So looking forward to seeing how this is going to work out. Mary Beanie has said that Insured Frames probably will not get this one. She is going to be on her P's and her Q's. We will see if Will.i.am, Galacticus, and the rest of the squad, rest of Quality Kickback Trivia winners that have gotten in there will get in there and probably get some of that money. We will see how it goes. And also big shout out to the Wolfpack Performance family, our community, also sponsoring a child for Christmas. I dropped those gifts off, several pair of shoes, some blankets, some other things that they wanted on their list, the Mickey Mouse book, all that stuff. So once again, Wolfpack family doing some good out here in the world. I know it's not a lot, but hopefully one day we can get to a bigger scale of doing it. But it's always better to do than not do, especially when it's in that direction of showing love and care for other people as when they don't maybe have as much, period. Things could always be worse for us. You need to look at it. Things could always be worse. It could be. Until you're dead, it could always be worse. I'm not saying that our situations aren't bad or that we don't have challenges to overcome, but I guarantee you that there's probably somebody else you could find in a worse situation than you that will make your situation be a little bit lighter. So just consider that as well, okay? Just consider it. Just think about it sometime. I have to think about it too. When I'm going through a lot of I hate going through every day, I just got to think like there's somebody out here that doesn't have legs or limbs. There's somebody out here that can't see or hear. There's somebody out here that can't talk or walk. There's somebody out here that is a day away from dying. I just lost a family member in October before I flew out to Coda. That was rough. To cancer in that month. At times, we have to check ourselves by putting things in perspective. So I'm very happy and proud of us as far as what we do annually here, you know, with the super chats and everything else. Very proud. Also got some big things in the works. Don't forget, I will be posting the 10 race series, the 10 circuits we're going to race in for the Wolfpack Epic Grudge Racing Championship Series. I'm going to post that. I'm working on it already. Working on the little graphic that's going to be up soon. It will go up first in the Discord, and then I will post it as far as on the YouTube channel for members only. We'll see that. There's no need for anybody that's not a member to see it, because they don't have an opportunity to even be eligible to race in that series to win almost $1,500 of Fanatec racing gear. So we're just going to post it in the members only. All right. Now, remember, we will play with a variation of which badge members are eligible to enter that race. And another thing, if you know you're an extreme and avid racer, you have a very nice setup, don't enter the race. It's not for you. It's for, we're trying to upgrade people. Now, if you got a regular Logitech and it's sitting there, you know, but I've already talked to my brother, Broken Hypocrite. He's not going to be in the race. ADVR Carlos, he's part with me as far as this gift package. He's not going to be in the race. Why? Because they already have nice setups. They're not trying to double dip. Don't be a double dipper with the chip, okay? Don't do that. It's not good. It wasn't good in Seinfeld. It ain't going to be good now. I can't stand a person that double dips a chip or put your hand in the bags of chips and then you want to share the chips. Don't do that, okay? We're trying to allow people that have very low grade type setups and are working from the D-pad, the sticks, to get an opportunity to get a setup that's going to be put them in the next level of racing and enjoying the esport world. Okay. So that's what we're going to be doing. And remember, it is cross platform. The equipment that we have is for Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. You will be able to compete in the race via Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. Delta Zero Productions will be assisting as far as making sure people get into the lobby. And if there's no room for you to get in because you're late, then it's just going to be what it is. If you do happen to upgrade your badge as we progress into that racing championship, you still can get in at that point. You might not accumulate enough points to win the overall prize, but you still will have the ability or the opportunity to win certain little prizes that we have along the way, which I'm still structuring in that, okay? So big shout out to you. I will see you soon. Again, we do have other things to talk about in regards to the race this weekend. We will be live for Kickback Quality Trivia. We will be live for race day highlights as well, but I'm looking to go live again and talk about some other shenanigans that have taken place in free practice, which I'm pretty sure you all saw. And if you didn't, we'll talk about that in my own way and talk about some things maybe teams have done or maybe said about what they're going to do going into 2024. So that is it. Wolfpack Performance out. Peace.